When I see it, I feel a little sorry for him, you know what I mean? Because he could be taking advantages that I'm taking, you know what I'm saying? Like, this50.com is to me the biggest hip-hop network out there, you know what I'm saying? As well as Vlad and all the other websites come after that. But he could be taking advantage of that. You don't hear his mixtapes. Y'all not dealing with him. I don't see nothing from nowhere, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, I just wish that the guy would have thought better, be a better businessman instead of being a good rapper.
Now for the past 10 years or so, Young Buck has been going out sad. Whenever people hear about him nowadays, it always seems to be because of some kind of trouble, whether it's getting arrested, having issues with the IRS, or claiming he was catfished by a transgender woman. These aren't just small incidents. A lot of them are career-ending. For example, remember what happened to Chingy? He took a fan photo with Sydney Starr, a transgender woman, and because he was seen in that picture, people thought he was into transgender women. What made things even worse was that Sydney Starr later claimed she had actually been involved with Chingy, and that led to his career being sidelined. One innocent picture ended up being the downfall of his career. I was talking to one of my friends about Young Buck the other day. I asked him, yo, do you still listen to Young Buck? And I asked him this question because he was a huge Young Buck fan back in the day. And the first thing he said was, isn't he still dating a transgender woman? Right? Now isn't that sad? This is the same guy who dropped Straight Outta Cashville. The guy who was once a member of one of the biggest gangster groups of all time. And it seems like his whole career has been reduced to transgender rumors. In my opinion, Young Buck's first album is a classic.
I feel the tension when I walk in the club. G-Unit to the socks, chickens all on the thug.
And judging from the music he has put out recently, it seems like Young Buck is still in his bag. But despite this, there's no denying that his downfall has been incredibly sad to watch. Let's talk about it for a second. Now recently, Young Buck dropped a song with DJ Paul called Don't Ask Me. The track came out about 3 months ago, and it's gritty, it's hard, and you can tell that Young Buck has returned to form. In my opinion, this is the best song he has dropped in a long time.
Don't ask me nothing about no PD. I just wanna know who got the bricks in the city.
From the jump, you can tell that he's not trying to recreate his past hits. His music now sounds fresh and modern, and having DJ Paul handle production does not hurt either. On the song, Young Buck says lines like, "Don't ask me about the Drake and Kendrick beef, cause the only thing I care about is my bag." He also said the same thing about 50. But the most interesting part of this song is when he addressed his former issues with Rick Ross. On the song, he says he recently did a song with Rick Ross, and that line alone tells you exactly where Young Buck stands with both 50 and Rick Ross. From the sound of things, Young Buck has decided to let bygones be bygones, and he's focusing on making music while pushing everything else to the side.
50 did that interview recently on TV, and he asked, they brought up a bunch of names. He was like, Tony Ayo. He's like, oh, that's my man. You know what I'm saying? And then they brought up Lloyd Banks. He goes, he cool.
No, he said Tony Ayo. He said Lloyd Banks good, Tony Ayo loyal. Because even if I'm not talking to 50, you ain't gonna see me with Rick Ross.
Right.
Like I seen Buck on stage with Rick Ross. Like if a nigga diss me, you ain't gonna see me like certain niggas. Let me tell you how funny these industry and street niggas are. They'll hang with a nigga, call a nigga and talk to you about the nigga. So if you talking about the nigga that you was just with, the rap nigga or this nigga, you probably talking to me, to that nigga.
Right.
That's why I don't fuck with niggas. See, that's the shit that gets you killed out here. Rest in peace, Takeoff. Fucking with niggas, fucking with certain people. I don't fuck with nobody. I fuck with my team and my team only. That's how we grew up, and that's what you do. I don't fuck with niggas, bro.
By performing with Rick Ross, he's essentially saying that he does not care about their past beef. He's also making it very clear that even though 50 is still beefing with Rick Ross, he wants no part of it. Now I understand Young Buck's point of view, because if you think about it, 50 has never taken a break from trolling and clowning Young Buck on social media. Every time Young Buck goes through something serious, whether it's the transgender issues or his IRS problems, 50 wastes no time making fun of Young Buck. Additionally, back in the day, when Young Buck was going through financial troubles, he took a $250,000 loan from 50. And that was a big mistake. From 50's perspective, he was helping out a friend. But from Young Buck's perspective, the money was essentially an advance payment for future albums, meaning it was supposed to go towards things like recording, marketing, and production. Now the only problem with this arrangement with 50 is that 50 had all the leverage in this situation and demanded that Young Buck pay him back every dollar he owed. Now throw in Young Buck's IRS issues and add to the fact that he was not paying child support, Young Buck was essentially a broke rapper.
And Buck, I think that's over. I think that's done, but
What do you mean?
I think his career is finished. You know what I'm saying? And it's because, like, his temperament, he won't actually get himself, like, right now he's in jail, but knowing who he is from the entire time that he's been around, I don't think he has what it takes to recover from, you know, like, it takes discipline at that point, because it's when people begin to want to give you resistance. Hip-hop culture is out with the old and with the new.
Now, as of August of 2024, Young Buck had to liquidate all of his assets, including his music catalog, jewelry collection, and luxury cars, which amounted to be about $1 million. Now, with all of that money, he was able to pay back 50 Cent, settle his problems with the IRS, and cover his back child support. Now, my first thought when I heard about this was, if Young Buck was offered $1 million for his assets, how much was his music catalog actually worth? Now, after doing some research, I found out that the first offer for Young Buck's catalog was around $730,000. Young Buck and his team countered with $900,000, and after negotiations, they settled on about $800,000. Now, to be honest, I thought Young Buck's catalog was worth way more, especially considering artists like Nelly sold their catalog for about $50 million, and that was only half his catalog. But then again, Young Buck was never on Nelly's level, so $800,000 does sound about right. Now, after having to sell his entire catalog, his jewelry, his cars, I now understand why Young Buck had no issue performing with Rick Ross. I mean, why stay loyal to 50, someone who takes every chance to stifle your career, when you can make money by working with 50's enemies instead? I completely get where Young Buck is coming from. But despite all this, I don't think Rick Ross respects Young Buck at all. And I'll tell you why. Late last year, probably around December, Rick Ross went on social media to try and troll 50 Cent once again. But this time he brought G-Unit members Banks and Young Buck into the fold. Rick Ross said, "I read yesterday that Young Buck's catalog is worth $725K. I can only assume that Lloyd Banks is worth about the same. So I say let's keep it simple. Throw Tony Yayo in there. I'll give you $1.5 million. I don't need the entire G-Unit catalog, but beg for mercy. Let's keep it simple. I'll give you another $500K for the masters of that. So that's $2 million. I'm making a business offer to the diabolical genius." Now, I know that Rick Ross and Young Buck are cool, but with this statement, Rick Ross is essentially saying that Young Buck's catalog is not worth much, and he's saying that he can buy it with chump change. He even offered to group Lloyd Banks, Young Buck, and Tony Yayo's catalogs together for $1.5 mil. That's disrespectful. Now, to be fair, since Young Buck sold his catalog for $800,000, Rick Ross was not too far off in estimating its value. But at the same time, I don't think he actually knew that. He was simply lowballing 50 by claiming he could buy Young Buck's catalog for that amount. So, what did 50 Cent do in response? He clapped back at Rick Ross by mocking his album sales with Meek Mill. Now, for those who don't know, Meek Mill and Ross dropped a joint album around 2023, and this one is called Too Good to Be True.
Niggas wanna see you lose when you're making moves. We bringing tools in any rooms, we try back the rules.
Now, if you look at past sales of Meek Mill and Rick Ross, they usually sell about 100K first week. But when this album came out, it sold about 30,000 copies first week. Now, for two big artists like Meek and Rick Ross to drop an album together and only sell about 30,000 copies, with both of their fan bases combined, that wasn't a good look. It pretty much signaled to the world that fans were starting to move away from them. So, be on the lookout for What Happened to Meek Mill coming soon, because I think it's just about that time. Now, here are 50's exact words. "When you sold 31,009 CDs, I shouldn't talk to you." Now, this triggered another response from Rick Ross, and instead of going at 50 himself, he decided to direct his attention to 50's girlfriend, Cuban Link. He said, "I just got a DM that say, Rose, we believe 50 Cent just made a comment about you online. I seen it and I said, y'all don't know 50 Cent like I do. He wouldn't do that. For one, his is Dream Chasers. She's been a Dream Chasers for many years, still is. That's when she told me I was her favorite. So yeah, the 50 Cent and Rick Ross beef is still going on to this day, and Young Buck has chosen a side, Rick Ross's. But despite this, it seems like Young Buck is still open to reconciling with 50, right? Young Buck has made it very clear that he would gladly perform alongside 50 Cent again. Now this is the part where people say, oh, Young Buck and 50 Cent are like brothers, they're like family, they have a long history, blah blah blah. But from my perspective, man, whenever someone trashes you on social media every time you're at your lowest, when someone openly questions your sexuality in front of the world, when someone actively prevents you from feeding your family by blocking your music, fully knowing that your music is the one thing that could get you out of debt, I don't think that counts as family anymore. That's something else. That's someone who's going out of their way to destroy you. So why would you want to link back up with a person like that and act like it was just a simple misunderstanding, right? And I think the answer is simple: cash money. We saw the same thing happen with the Game. Once he realized he could not make as much money without 50, he wanted to get back in the group and let bygones be bygones. The only difference between Young Buck and the Game is the Game was able to establish himself as a solo artist outside of G-Unit, while Young Buck was not able to do the same.
Can you name every member of D12?
No.
I'm gonna tell you why. It's because they all had to wait to after the second cycle of their leader. So Nelly's first album popped, then Nelly's second album popped, and because those albums were hugely successful albums, it took a long time for the record to be over for them to get to the next album. Everybody just they became the crew with Nelly. It's like D12 is the crew with M. G-Unit, the first record came out, boom. I forced the G-Unit album to come out. Interscope didn't want the G-Unit album, they wanted the next 50 Cent record.
You sold 11 million records. Drop the next album by yourself, man. Nah, I want to put Banks on.
It caused Lloyd Banks to sell 3 million records.
I want to put Buck on.
Buck, 1.8 million records.
I want to put Yayo on.
Ye like 800 something thousand, because he couldn't even travel.
I want to put Game on.
Game comes 5 million records.
Drop Back for Mercy. He didn't have to do that.
The Game dropped multiple successful albums without 50, and he worked with some of the biggest artists in the game like Wayne and 2 Chainz. Young Buck, on the other hand, has a brand that is still heavily tied to 50. So in a way, I understand why the Game distanced himself from 50. I still believe that 50 always wanted to be the man, the center of attention in G-Unit, and he felt very threatened when someone else in the group was getting more shine than him. So if the Game had remained with the G-Unit, he would probably be in the same situation as Young Buck right now, asking for forgiveness and not being able to drop music freely. Now with that being said, I do think that making amends with 50 Cent could revitalize Young Buck's career. 50 might put him on a couple of shows or movies, or maybe the next time he goes on tour, he'll take Young Buck along. I mean, just look at Tony Yayo's career. Tony Yayo hasn't dropped an album that made noise in I don't know when. He was never the strongest member of G-Unit lyrically. He has no bars whatsoever. But because he remained loyal to 50 and never bit the hand that fed him, he's still reaping the benefits of being a G-Unit member. He's still taking private flights with 50, staying in the fanciest hotels, and remains relevant simply because of his affiliation with 50. However, I don't know about you guys, but if someone publicly made fun of me the way 50 did to Young Buck, I'm sorry, I'm not going back to that person. Making jokes about me in front of the world is one thing, but trying to destroy my manhood by consistently punking me and controlling my income? That's another level of disrespect. I could never get over that no matter how broke I was. But from the sound of things, Young Buck is willing to go back for more punishment. Now, I've been following Young Buck's career for a long time, and the one thing I've noticed is that if you look at his YouTube page, it doesn't look like he's very active. In fact, if you come across a Young Buck video, it's usually on someone else's channel. That probably means that 50 still has some level of control over him in some capacity. Either that, or Young Buck believes that by dropping music on other channels, he has a better chance of being noticed since his channel has been inactive for a long time. And if you remember correctly, 50 was not allowing Young Buck to post videos on his own channel. So in essence, Young Buck has finally paid 50 Cent off. He paid back his child support, he paid back all the money he owed to the IRS, and settled his child support. At this point, It seems like Young Buck is trying to make a career comeback, or at the very least, he's trying to be a legacy artist and make money off the songs he did prior to this. I don't think Young Buck needs 50 because people still respect Young Buck and value his legacy, especially considering he was one of the most standout members of the group. I mean, if you really think about it, when people listen to Beg for Mercy, they're not necessarily doing so for 50's verses. 50 was the initial draw that got people to listen to the album, but people stayed because of Lloyd Banks and Young Buck. Now, as mentioned earlier, it seems like Young Buck is done beefing with people, and he's also ready to make amends with 50. I personally hope he finds a way to stay consistent and relevant in his own way, because he shaped a huge part of my childhood. I don't want to be that guy that says, oh, you're old now, you're washed up, because even though Young Buck is in his 40s, he hasn't stopped dropping music, and in my opinion, he's actually gotten better over time. The problem is, Young Buck does not have the buzz that he once had, neither does 50, so people won't even realize it. So yeah, Young Buck is back. Do I want to see him back with 50 and them? Yes, but at this point, it's really up to 50 to decide if he wants that or not. And from the sound of things, he's tired of that era of his life, so it's probably not going to happen.
I never had. I just don't know what 50's his own, you know, person and stuff. Like attempt to try to discredit my name, discredit me as a person, to damage my character out here, and you know, put out all this false narratives of different things in regards to certain craziness that I've went through. It's just like, you rich, my man, you still doing your thing. I've always looked at you as big bro, you know what I'm saying? Yes, I made mistakes too, but I've never did anything to try to take food out of your mouth or stop you from eating. So it's just like, see how aggressive he is towards me. It makes me feel like, damn, is you trying to gyro me too? You think? Like,
that's it for me. It's your boy Ali. New video dropping soon. Also add me on Instagram at Ali Talks Music. Till next time, peace.